two, one. Good evening and welcome to Anime-Zing Radio here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I'm your host, Doug Engler. Joining me as always in the co-host seat is our good friend, Angela Rose.
Hi, everyone.
It looks like Darren might officially be dead now. I called and woke him up. He said he'd be joining in a few minutes and still waiting. So he'll join at some point when he regains consciousness. We want to remind everybody that Anime-Zing Radio is brought to you tonight by Home Circle Media for the latest and greatest in anime gear, everything from pens, pencils, stationery, and officially licensed art books. Be sure to check out homecirclemedia.com today or look for them at an upcoming convention near you. We're also brought to you by KC Fox for all of your artwork, cosplay, and photography needs. Be sure to check out KC Fox, that's KAYCIFOXX, on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We also want to thank our new partner, Dubby Energy Powder. Its website is dubby.gg. It's an energy drink that I have recently found. It comes in powder form. You mix it with water. It's a healthier alternative to things like Monster, Rockstar, and I'll be honest, I got my tub of Dubby in a week and a half ago, and as somebody who used to run on two Dunkin' Donuts large iced coffees a day. I haven't bought an iced coffee since I got the energy powder. Working two jobs, I can officially say that it keeps me awake, especially after working a mechanic job for 8 to 9 hours during the day, going to job 2, delivering pizza until 11 o'clock at night. It helps keep me alert and has actually done it. I'm impressed by the work it does. So if you're interested in checking out Dubby, the website is down below. You can see dubby.gg. Use code AZR10 at checkout to get a 10% discount. And let me know what you think if this is something that you want to try. Of course, tonight we have got two amazing guests that have wanted to join us. Angela knows more about them, so we're going to let Ange take over the introduction.
All right. Our guests tonight are Anthony and Josh, who run an online and convention-based shop called New Age Gamers. As y'all know, one of the things I had been tossing around was the fact that we have had a lot of cosplayers, a lot of voice actors, but this is the first time I believe we have actual vendors on the show to talk about merch from Japan. So take it away.
Anthony, you want to take it or?
I can get started. Yeah, so we're New Age Gamers. So one of the things that we, like everybody else, we've gone to a lot of conventions and, we love everything Japan has to offer with anime, the culture, and everything like that. One of the things that we noticed when we were going to conventions is, we all have a budget to buy stuff at conventions and everything like that. And me and Josh thought that we could do it better. And one of the things that we try to do for our store is to offer value and offer the best prices, because I can tell you that you've probably been to like a lot of vendors and sometimes they might have a figure, they sell it for $60, $80, and you're like, whoa, why does this cost $60, $80? And there's been plenty of times where me and Josh have known each other, I was going to say, 10, 15 years, Josh?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Yeah. So we've been doing like conventions for such a long time, different conventions. We saw each other, as you get older, you still have to follow a budget, but it's more loosely. But at the same time, when you look at a figure, you're like, I don't want to spend that much money. And one of the things we did was we said, hey, we can do it better. Let's offer better prices and give people discounts, because at the end of the day, as a business, we want to offer the best prices to everybody and like have figures and anything anime related to be more attainable for everybody. Because I think that's that's everybody's business model. And I feel like the anime community in general, everything costs so much. Like enjoying anime and collectibles shouldn't cost an arm and a leg. And the problem is, like, when you like something, you have to choose now. You can't just be like, oh, I have all these options. I have to basically spend the $60 here when I can spend $60 and get more than that. And that's something that we try to provide as our business. And like one of our biggest things is we want to cut people deals always. That's really the thing, is like we started this business as passion, not to do more than that. It's like, I was gonna say, like we treat it like more like a nonprofit per se. It's really a labor of love for us. And Josh can tell you on his end, at least, how he feels about it.
Yeah, and honestly, like you said, we always try to cut people deals. I know you told me about this, that someone came actually back to our booth at AB. I forget how much we sold it for.
We sold the figure for I think like $35 or $40, and somebody was selling the Ava figure for $80 for one figure, and they basically told me that they were buying it for gifts, and they were able to get more from buying from us. And I think that's another thing that me and Josh have is we tend to have more people who constantly come back to us because we do offer deals, and we want to be able to. We feel like it's anime for the masses. You know, I don't want to be like Amazon or anything like that, like offering those kind of deals, but we want to be able to provide a good service and be friendly. It's not about face of service. It's about being personable, knowing what we like, and I feel like a lot of anime cons it's either like junk, or the people don't know what they're talking about, or they're overcharging for something when they shouldn't be overcharging.
Or the other concern, granted, it used to be a lot worse in the past, is the bootleg stuff.
Yeah, that's one thing that we try to do ourselves as a business is we do not sell anything that's questionable or bootleg. There's really no reason to. And like I said, we know reasonably pricing stuff. And like if you look at our online prices, like eBay and Mercari, our prices are pretty similar that we would sell it for a con. And I feel like when you go to a con, everything's jacked up. And if you find something that's really rare, people are jacking up $10, $20. So if you look at some of our prices, like right now, some of our items would be $5 cheaper or a couple of dollars cheaper, or the cheapest price on eBay. Like we try to market it to be the cheapest, and we want to give people breaks because we understand not everybody's gonna want to spend $100, $200 on anime stuff because that's like an extra bonus thing you can buy in your life. More important rent and how crazy the cost of living is. We want to be able to provide an accessory because like me and Josh are like we were the same people going to cons and be like, hey, we have $40 to spend or $100 to spend. We rather not buy one thing. We want to buy multiple things, and that's where we try to at least provide that.
Yeah, and especially at like bigger conventions like Anime Boston, where there are so many different vendors. Not a lot of people think about shopping around, and like if you see a figure that you like, a lot of people immediately buy it, not realizing that they could find it probably at another booth cheaper. And you run into that all the time. And this is where Darren would have been great because he's talked about this a lot since he joined the show a couple years ago. And because he does like Raleigh SuperCon and stuff down North Carolina, so he's seen a lot of this stuff as well. That it's, I think the 02 Bunny Girl, the really big one, that I've seen it range in prices everywhere from. I think 285 was the cheapest I'd seen it, and I've seen it over 450, and that was all at the same convention.
Yeah, I've like I said, I've seen some crazy prices. Like I think the biggest problem with New England area, we don't have that many conventions as we used to, and I feel like that's starting to happen again. A little more conventions are starting to happen again, but if you only have a big convention every quarter, it doesn't give you enough options to go in person because not everybody wants to buy everything online. And, us being online too, we want to be that trusted vendor that the same experience you get in person, you get it online. And we want people to feel comfortable like it's a local person and it's a person you're not going to worry about being something fake or it's not working. Because if something's not satisfactory to your liking, we try to make sure we fix this. Like if the figure is actually broken or like the game's not working, because we do sell games too. We try to at least be there for the person to offer that. Another thing we can say about conventions is if somebody's buying something, we have no problem with people coming back and offering the same pricing. If somebody says, hey, I can't do this much, get this deal. But we recommend that everybody, like when you go to a convention, don't always try to buy everything on Friday. Come back. And if you feel like you want to hold it, like me and Josh have held things for people. Like they say, hey, I'll be back in like half an hour. I'll come back. If somebody doesn't come back in an hour, we might put it out. But most of the time we try to keep the good things out. And if somebody really wants something and they're thinking about it, because, the last thing we want to do is force somebody to buy something that they are questionable about. We want somebody to walk out and enjoy what they're buying.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think one of the things that really helps us keep our prices low as well is we're a 2-person operation. We work out of our homes. we already have day jobs that make us money, and like you said, like Anthony said, it's a passion project. This is
we keep our costs really low so we can pass off the savings to our customers, and it shows from our prices and everything like that. And if I think Angela's been around our booth multiple times. Like, we were just constantly swamped because our prices, we want to be the best prices, and when you have the best prices, you tend to have no space and everything's constantly busy, which is not a bad thing.
Can confirm, I believe it was Friday during Anime Boston when I was wandering around with people. You guys had such a crowd. I felt bad for stopping for like a couple of minutes to say hi because I felt like I was taking away from the customers' time. But but just the amount of stuff, the amount of people, it was insane.
Yeah. And I think I briefly passed by the table on Sunday. I was only there Saturday and Sunday, and the press schedule was absolutely ridiculous. 6 press conferences in 2 days, and 5 of them were Saturday. So I didn't have much time to do anything. Angela was there for most of that. It was when I got there at like 11:30. It was 2 press conferences, break for lunch, 2 press conferences, break for dinner, another press conference, and then track my wife down at Artist Alley because she had a table.
Yep.
Whereas I like to pretend I have a social life. And I think after the last press conference was when I found pretty much everybody I know from multiple social groups at the bar. But
and on Sunday was get up for 1 press conference early on, and then do the little bit of shopping that I did at Anime Boston, and which is where I got Nazuna.
Yeah.
Had this one that was given to me as a birthday gift from my wife because that was the only one that she had seen at the time. And then walking around Sunday, we saw this figure at like 3 different stalls, and then 1 other Nazuna figure. So this technically was the only figure that I bought knowing it was a figure. And then I got 2 mystery bags because I love those. I'm addicted. And it makes good content for the show.
And then...
Yeah. I wish we had... I'd say you probably did more than us.
I was going to say, you guys were very busy. Did you guys even get to experience the convention, or was it literally just
no, it was just a table.
Table and then collapse?
Pretty much, we were there from open to close, and by the time it was all done, we just wanted to get something to eat and just relax.
Yeah.
I laugh because I've been there, and I know that dealers' hall hours are long. Artist Alley hours are longer. Even though I did not help my wife at her table, she had a different table helper for Anime Boston this year. I do know that 12 hours Friday and Saturday in Artist Alley is a long time, and you usually don't get breaks because it's so busy. I can only imagine the vendor side of things.
Yeah, we did have help. We usually have people who help us out. This time, last year, we had Anthony's brother help us out. And this year we had 2 friends come to help us. And it I'd say it was just enough, really. I think each time it's been just enough to really keep it from getting too out of control. But, we made it through. I think it was a great year for us. And we're definitely going to try and go back next year. So hopefully we'll see you both there next year.
That's the plan anyway. Going forward, do you guys plan on vending at any cons outside of the Northeast?
Not.
Have you even looked at it?
Yes, we have.
That's something we can definitely talk about. It's like I think the difficult problem is our work schedules. We both have full-time jobs. So Josh just got recently a new job, so his schedule needs to get settle down before we figure out what other conventions we're doing.
Yeah.
But like on our plate for New England conventions, at least right now, is we're doing Pop Cult, which is in August, and we're doing AEC in October.
Hopefully, yeah, that's not yet confirmed, but
Yeah,
because
they have. I don't think they've even opened up the
yeah.
applications.
Because there's a lot of smaller anime conventions scattered throughout New England. I know Rhode Island's got one, Maine's got some, Vermont.
Yep, we have confirmed for this year after 3 years away. BakuretsuCon in Colchester, Vermont is coming back. You've got Anime-Zing in South Portland, Maine.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up in June, we'll be at Rail City Fan Fest in St. Albans, Vermont, which is a nice multi-genre convention, and I guarantee you would be one of maybe 2 anime retailers that would be there. And the other one really wasn't much in the way of anime stuff. He had more of collectible figures. He had some random anime figures, and I did happen to find Golden Darkness. Like this was basically face down under other figures. I saw it and knew exactly who it was. Well, they hadn't even set up the table yet. I'm like, is that who I think it is? How much? I had to wait to see because we had a table for the radio show at that convention, and the owner came back by and was like, "Oh yeah, $25." I said, "I'll take it." Shouldn't do it, but I'm addicted to figures.
Yeah. Understandable. I have no room for figures. I wish I did.
I'm running out of room for figures, but I still buy them anyway.
And space, what's that?
That's why we're hoping to buy a house in Pennsylvania so we can have enough space to put stuff, because we have artwork in one of the big plastic totes, and that's almost full.
But granted, that's the joke. I choose to live in the city, therefore I choose location over space.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I was going to say, as far as going to smaller cons, I think we've definitely talked about it as well. Not going to name any names. But pretty much it comes with the territory of being small as we are right now. And, can we continue giving good deals and, keeping our budget where it needs to be? Can we keep going to all the cons we already know we can do? And can we still go to Japan so we can get the items and order all the stuff and just make it all work? And we're not quite there. And also, as Anthony said, schedules are a thing. When work, it can be pretty tough.
Yeah, I mean, we could at one point we talked ourselves to we could probably do a convention a month if we had to. Like, we could make that work, but it takes a lot for our business too, because like I said, it's just me and Josh that we have everything in our home. We have to pack everything up. Sometimes we have to pause our store, and we have to because we don't keep any extra inventory for conventions. Everything we have is at home, so we want to, like, sometimes the good stuff is online. We need to pull that stuff out and sell at a convention, and it's just like it's a lot of inventory and everything like that. So like a lot of stuff that somebody will see at the convention is stuff we have online. So if there's something that somebody was missing that they didn't get, there's a chance they can just buy it online.
Mm.
And do you have a website that people can check out, or is it a lot of eBay? Or
we do. Josh has made the website and everything.
Yeah, the website's still under development right now, but if you did want to buy, eBay and Mercari are the best ways to go.
Yeah, you can go to our website, newedgegamers.com, and it has a link to all of our social media and the link to our sites that we have, eBay and Mercari. So like eBay, we usually have more of the video games, figures, and bigger items are on eBay, and Mercari tend to be keychains and smaller items. And the reason we did that split is just so we, like, Josh does more of the Mercari store, I do more of the eBay store. Josh lives more in the city, so he's able to take the smaller stuff, like the keychains and everything like that. So he handles that in. I do the figures because I have a car and I live outside the city, so I tend to have a little bit more room to store stuff. and I can take my car and drive it to the post office. And like example, today I shipped out like 6 packages, and think about it, 6 packages like boxes add up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
Now, one of the things I want to touch on is you guys. You guys actually did get to go to Japan shortly after it reopened.
Yeah, we were really crazy because we were when September happened, when they were starting to let people in Japan, we're like, hey, we're going right in November. Like it was just like it was like a 2-month notice. We booked the flights and everything.
Well, to be fair on that, I think we were being even crazier because I think we were talking about it in July because we'd heard people getting visas to get in.
Because we were gonna do business visa to get into Japan. That was originally what we were thinking about doing. Like we already had a friend who was doing the process in September before they opened it. He was trying to get a business visa to get in because you need to apply for it. And one good thing is because we went to Japan, we were able to bring down our prices. And everybody knows shipping is so expensive now from Japan. And like sometimes I order stuff from Japan for myself because I like a lot of video game stuff and a lot of collectibles that you can't get in America. So obviously I have to go to Japan to ship stuff. But as everybody knows, it's so cheap, so much cheaper if you buy in bulk. And not everybody is able to do that. And that's the good thing about having a business scale that we do is we're able to buy in bulk. Like Josh and myself have constantly bought stuff that we wanted from Japan. And then we like, hey, we can ship stuff for the business there. And we're like, okay, let's split it up, video games or collectibles that we want. And then we're able to sell our stuff in the store. Like it's not practical to ship stuff. One thing, like the example, this weekend we were looking at T-shirts from Japan, and we found a big and tall store. Me and Josh are not small people. We found a big and tall store, and they had a Chopper T-shirt, 2020 Chopper. I'm a big fan of One Piece. And
to be fair, I found this shop. I showed it to you.
Yeah, he did. So the shirt was like $20, and shipping was $35 for the T-shirt. And you know, a T-shirt does not cost $35 a ship. That's like the scale of Japanese shipping. Is if you're trying to buy one item, $35 for a T-shirt, which weighs, less than a pound,
quarter of a pound.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nope. I have seen this time and time again, and Australia is actually worse. With
we were talking about it.
Costs.
We have friends in Australia.
Spending as many years as I did working in a mailroom on a college campus that does a lot of international shipping, that I got to see, and it's gotten progressively worse. And those are things people don't think about is how much is it gonna cost to send this somewhere, or the documentation that needs to go with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've had a few items be turned away, or actually we had to spend more money on it just because of the item itself. So you'll run into surprises. Like one item we had a bunch of items ordered, but one item in particular had to be shipped on its own. So automatically that just raised the price of it.
Yep.
I know Anthony knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, it was if Persona 3.
Yeah, the Persona 3
water gun. Yeah. So because of it looks like a gun, it had to be shipped separately because of customs.
Yep. I want to facepalm that, but at the same time, I get it.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem, and I feel like vendors do this, and other like people go to cons. The reason they're jacking up the prices because shipping costs so much, because sometimes they're not thinking the same way we're thinking. Like Josh and me, we think about what can we do to make the business save money, and we pass the savings to our customers. Like everything, like I said, everything we do. So because vendors are charging so high, it's because they're paying high amount of shipping to ship the stuff, and they're not shipping in bulk or being smart about how they're shipping stuff.
I think nowadays some of it is also that for some vendors that's their only source of income, and we're coming on multiple years of no conventions.
Yeah, that's why everything's jacked up, and that's a good thing we can do. Is like I said, we want to be able to offer value, because I feel like the problem is when you start raising prices like that, it becomes that anime stuff is out of reach for everybody. We all work to enjoy other things we work and save for vacations. But if you start chipping away at a convention budget, like conventions are not cheap. Like think about it, anime cost. Anime cost is a big expensive convention. Like you figure the badge is $150, right? Then you figure the hotel, depending if you share it with people, that's
Depending on
500.
how many people you put in a room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're paying, even if you share people with room, $300 to $1,500
I
for a
mean,
room.
and
Food.
that
Food is not cheap either at
Oh
Boston.
yeah.
Boston food, Boston, you can get away with inexpensive, but let's be real, most people don't.
Hmm.
And also, if you have cosplay, that also adds up. You have to buy the cosplay stuff.
Yeah.
So, all in all, most average people in the convention, you're easily spending $1,000 to $1,500 minimum, or even $2,000 for a convention. And if some vendor is selling something for $80, $100, that chips your budget that you can't buy stuff. I want to see people walk away with a bag full of stuff versus just one thing that they want. Because not everybody's stuck. No, not everybody likes one anime. Like I'm a big fan of Chainsaw Man, One Piece, and if I had to choose between Chainsaw Man and One Piece, a perfect example, that's hard. You know what I mean?
Whereas those were the only. Whereas I never got into One Piece at all. Like, just never grabbed me from the beginning. So now it's kind of a, but why?
Yep.
And then you have somebody like me who likes the more obscure animes. Like I stay away from mainstream stuff. I've tried like Fairy Tale. I
Notable
dropped 100+ in
exceptions.
there. I have fallen out of Demon Slayer. I try to give anime 3 episodes. If it doesn't hook me in 3, I drop it. That one I gave 6 episodes. It didn't hook me in 6, so I was like, it's just not for me. My Hero I dropped in season 4.
Yep.
But
And
then there's shows like Kuma Bear that I absolutely love. I am isekai trash, which Ange gives me crap for. I will come out and admit that I like the isekais, not because they're good, but because some of them are entertainingly stupid.
and in turn he gives me crap for enjoying the overrated shonen. Uh, on my favorites list, certain seasons of My Hero Academia and Attack on Titan. Both
And
of which I
SAO, I
like.
give you crap for SAO.
That
I love
too.
SAO. SAO was so good.
Minus exactly one story arc, which was trash.
I understand with that one.
I started SAO, thought it was no. I dropped a hot take a couple weeks ago that caught
God, here we
Angela off.
go.
It caught her so out of left field because I didn't tell anybody about this take before the show, even though I'd had it in my mind for like 3 or 4 days. But we were. It's rare that Darren, Ange, and I all watch the same show because we have such different tastes. But Fury was one of those exceptions because it's an amazingly fantastic show.
It is the most adorable thing ever.
Now, going into Sword Art Online blind, not reading a synopsis, not knowing anything about it, seeing it was okay, you get kind of sucked into a video game world. Fury, going in blind, okay, it's a girl who gets talked into playing a video game, and you see the video game aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I thought both of them at the start were interesting ideas because it was something that I wasn't all that familiar with. And then when SAO turned into a love arc, I'm like, okay, I'm done. You had me go. You had an interesting premise, and now you turned it into a love story out of nowhere. I don't. I'm done with this. I've got too many other shows to watch. So I said, Fury is what I was hoping SAO would have been when I went in blind. And Ange flipped.
I went on a lovely rant, but to be fair, by the time I watched Sword Art, I binged a whole lot at once because it was going into a new I believe it was going into season 3.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, I also had enough friends who had seen it, so I wasn't going in 100% blind.
But when I explained to Ange that point of view, she was like, "Okay, I can understand, but you're still wrong."
And our first comment from the chat, Doug HH is saying you should check out SAO Abridged by Something Wicked Studio.
Maybe. I don't think Giga has like an SAO in 5 minutes like he did some of the other shows. But like I say,
commercials.
now as a fan of the more obscure shows, there are times when it's difficult for somebody like myself to find figures of characters that I'd be interested in. Knowing you guys go to Japan, are you able to find, figures from the more abstract shows, well, considered more lesser known shows here in the US but might be popular in Japan?
Yes, and that's a good thing that we do that I wanted to bring up is where we like me and Josh's views on anime are very different, but they're very similar. Like we like a lot of like something you'll notice with our booth was we have a lot of old stuff. Like we're big fans of Ava, JoJo, One Piece, like any Sailor Moon, Card Captor Sakura. Like there's a lot of stuff that we like that are old, but we also like obscure stuff. So another thing that we offer our customers, if there's something obscure that you like, it's something old that we can offer you, you can message us and reach out to us on social media. Like, give you an example, Josh was able to get something from Japan. I forget the name of the anime that we got.
It was
Spider anime.
You know what? It was the Spider Isekai.
Yeah. So exactly, we
bought
a
Spider. So what?
Yeah.
We actually got a couple of merch items for a customer.
Because there
wasn't one of the translators or something for the show.
Yeah, and then also the translator came in. So not translator, it was one of the voice actors for the show was there at the con also. And we were able to sell merch to her too. Because
because the person who asked us for it was interested in like 2 of the 3 things.
Yep.
And said, "Oh, you can give the third one to this person," and that's who it turned out to be.
That's got to be cool when you get to meet the voice actors of the characters as well.
Yeah. And as far as also getting things like that as well, because we've been in the game for so long, and I think it's fair to say a lot of anime fans are very nostalgic towards older anime. Like the older you get, the more you kind of hold on to those older shows, especially if they're really good. Obviously Sailor Moon's a really good example. Card Captor, both of those have been, for the most part, done for a little while, even though they rebooted Sailor Moon.
They also rebooted Card Captor Sakura.
Yeah, they had Clear Card.
Not new, but like quasi recently.
Yeah, it was Card Captor Sakura Clear Card was about 2 years ago, maybe 3.
I was going to say, I thought it was before pandemic, but
I think it was before pandemic. I have to look.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of things got lost in the sauce.
Yeah, but for me, there's a period of time where just nobody knows.
But I was going to say, like, one of the things, and we discussed this while even looking at things, whether we're in Japan or just ordering, sometimes we'll just think of, older shows. Like a great example was we were looking for older stuff, and one gem that came to mind was Nichijou. I think you'd be very hard pressed to find anyone who didn't like the show. And we actually managed to get some items.
Yeah, we try to one thing we try to do is when we order Japan, we're actually going to be ordering Japan now. I'm starting to look for stuff so we can do bulk order because we try to restock constantly, and then we'll restock before convention also. So before Pop Cult, we'll actually restock more stuff just to have fresh new items because obviously, the good thing about Japan is there's constantly anime merch that comes out weekly, monthly for either Kuji prizes. So there's prize items that you get by buying a ticket. At pop-ups, arcades have anime merch for different seasons.
And then the gachapon.
Yep, gachapon stuff. Yep. We do a lot of gachapon stuff, and then that other items that come out limitedly. We, like I said, somewhat the more expensive figures we try not to get those because they are more in cost and they're hard to find, so we can't offer deals. So we try to offer deals on the the stuff we can control.
Yeah.
And they're also harder to ship because a lot of those reference ones are more intricate and just
Bigger.
They're bigger and heavy and likely to even break just sending it back to the States.
Yeah. That's understandable why you'd want to look at the price figures, stuff like this, or the smaller figures that they have a bigger production of.
Yeah, we're able to offer better prices like that. So like some figures, like new example, just because they're a prize figure or an item, we instead of selling it for $40-$50, we could sell it for $20. So like if you look at our store, I've sold like 2 different figures today that were $10 each. We wouldn't be able to do that if we couldn't get the prices down. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't factor in, as like I said, shipping is expensive also internationally, but in America, you have to assume that shipping is $5 for anything that's under a pound or a pound. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
it's crazy. So like I said, if you're getting something for $10, you're pretty much paying $5 that cost of shipping. So you're getting a $5 figure pretty much. I wish shipping would be cheaper like Amazon where everything's free shipping, but a lot of things in our store we offer free shipping, at least on the eBay side. Macari, because of how much cheaper the item is, like the keychain, we usually charge shipping for that.
Yeah.
And we want to say a hello to all the viewers out there who are just tuning in. Tonight, Our guests are New Edge Gamers, Josh and Anthony. They have a anime merchandise store that you can find at conventions and online. And we're talking about what it's like to be vendors for conventions, some of the behind the scenes stuff that a lot of the regular attendees at these events probably never understand, the behind the scenes of what it's like to work a convention as a vendor or artist, which is something that we pride ourselves in trying to do on the show here. And it's really neat to hear about some of what you guys have to go through to get the merchandise, and the fact that you're able to find the quality stuff that you get from Japan and are able to sell it cheaper than just about everybody else. And I think you said that you would price match if somebody found it cheaper somewhere.
Yeah, especially at conventions, we would price match. That's something that we try to do because we understand that it's, if I'm buying something, I'm buying for my collection, and every single dollar, and that's the same thing me and Josh agree, is like every dollar matters, especially selling something. And if somebody's like, another thing we do is somebody's buying a lot of items, we're more than likely to give them a better price. So like say something is probably at the listed prices we would sell for $100, we might sell it to them for $75, $70, depending on the items. Because some items we can negotiate the price, some of the items we can't. So we try to factor it in, and also give a lot of goodwill to people because we understand that you're buying multiple items. We're going to give you a deal. Like buying one item, we really can't do that sometimes. If somebody's saying, "Hey, I need this for $5," but it costs us $5 to get, we can't really sell it that much. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of things that people don't factor in. Is we pay. Another good thing we do our business, we pay the taxes on stuff. So when you go to our store at the convention, if we list something for $15, you pay $15. We're paying the taxes on it. Yep. So we do that on purpose because people come up to us like, there's plenty of times where you buy a figure at a convention, somebody has something listed for $15, now you have to pay sales tax, which is, let's say, $16.58 or something like that. You know what I mean? And you don't have $16.58.
And question from the chat for you guys. John Knight wants to know if you have watched the anime Show by Rock.
I have not, but I've heard of it.
The Show by Rock? No, I don't think so. Or do you mean Baki the Rock? Or
nope, not Bochi the Rock.
Show by Rock is an older one and one of Doug's favorites. And now Doug's pulling out the book.
We'll put Naz in it down.
Oh, I know what this is. Okay, I have never seen it.
But
speaking of old anime too, that I can follow up with is sometimes some anime doesn't have merch or very little merch. Like we get constantly asked by like Cowboy Bebop, Trigun stuff. There's just some anime that because of adult-oriented themes, they don't have merch, and that makes it harder.
I'm actually surprised, especially now with Trigun Stampede having just wrapped.
The good thing is with that, because me and Josh have talked about it, because it is such a good anime. We watch a few episodes during AB because our roommate wanted to watch it. And we're like, hey, we haven't watched it yet, and it was just like the animation, everything was so good. But because of the anime in the last 10 years, at least, has gotten more mainstream in Japan. Like you just in Japan, like for example, Josh went for the first time in November. Not everything's in Akihabara anymore. Everything's everywhere. So it's like Ikebukuro. At the mall, there's anime stuff. So it's more mainstream that there'll be Trigun merch
and
now.
I will say I was shocked. In I actually dragged. We had done a day trip to when we were in Paris. We did a day trip out to Versailles. On our way back from the palace to the train stop, there was a anime and comic shop that I dragged him through, even though not a damn thing was in English.
Of course, and that's the best thing. I love seeing merch from different places.
And that was the whole thing. Was what's popular in Japan isn't what's necessarily what's popular in the States, isn't what was on display in London or Paris.
Yeah. I actually had a really interesting conversation because me and Anthony actually flew out at different times. Because what was it? You flew out Saturday?
Yep.
Right? Yeah, and then I flew out the following Monday, so I was a couple days behind him. And I actually sat next to a really lovely couple where the husband was actually from Boston and the wife was Japanese. And they were just coming back from visiting his family in Boston, funny enough. And I mentioned it to her because she actually caught me watching anime on the plane. And she's like, oh, and she got very excited. And she's like, oh, do you like anime? And she's like, asked me what I liked. What I was doing going to Japan, and then when I mentioned our business, she's like, "Oh, what's popular in America?" And she was very surprised to hear so many obviously newer anime, but a lot of older anime as well. Like I mentioned Sailor Moon, she's like, "Oh, I loved Sailor Moon when I was younger. I read the manga and everything like that," and gave me a few recommendations on places to go for food and stuff. But
gotta love that.
It definitely seems, and I think Anthony would agree too. Japan doesn't have the same nostalgia factors.
It definitely does that because there's so much new anime, and the good thing is you constantly see a lot of old stuff come up because Japan is like inner cities here where you don't have a lot of room. So if you have a new favorite, you're more likely to sell your old stuff because you don't have the nostalgia for it anymore, and that's why you're able to go to like a secondhand store, go to the Akihabara, you'll find old stuff. Even online, you find old things that are 10, 20 years old in mint condition because somebody sold it. They had the box still, and they just don't feel for it anymore. And there's so much, like I said, there's so much new anime that you're able to find the old stuff, and you're like, wow, this person preserved it.
Yeah.
And
question from the chat.
Question, yeah.
Ross wants to know, what was your favorite or most memorable convention moment or day?
We're going to be very different on this.
I was going to say, I have one that immediately comes to mind. It's a little personal for the person involved. I know you know exactly what I'm talking about, and I don't want to get into that level of things.
Yeah, I mean, I could say I would say I would say more for you the Kira person because you had more talking with that person.
Yeah, we definitely met a lot of people who at conventions we've talked to, and we'll have fun with them. One interesting item we had. I know, Rose, you haven't watched JoJo.
No, but I know enough about it at this point.
So one of the characters, one of the villains, has a thing for hands and has a weird thing with nails. It's I'm not gonna describe it. Anyone who's watched JoJo knows exactly who I'm talking about. But at one point, he gets hit and his clippers come out, and we get to see a good picture of them, and it's like a bowling pin. It's like little bowling pin nail clippers that he uses to clip his nails, and they actually made that as real merch.
It came in a bottle to put the nail clips in and a
Yes,
nail clipper.
which is a thing in the show for that villain. But and that person, they loved it. It's
We had a customer who found that, and just it was a special moment for that person.
yeah, but we pretty much bonded over it. We've seen this person multiple times. I think we've seen them at the last 3 conventions, right?
Yeah, we do see a lot of our customers who multiple
Yeah.
conventions. I think for me at least, my 2 different experiences, I would say the first time we sold at AEC, we were selling stuff and people were like really enamored by the merch we had and the selection we had. I think we realized, because we knew we were doing online, but going to conventions and seeing people enjoy the merch that we had and the stuff that we enjoy and people are excited by it. We decided to do the yard sale at AEC. That was like our first time actually trying to sell stuff to see how it would work, because we weren't really sold of selling these at conventions, but we didn't want to buy a booth and do that. Like compared to when we first went to conventions to now, we have a different mindset and how we operate. We've learned from different things. And then I would say the second thing is all the people that we get in our booth and talk to them. Like I have people who come by to say hi, or they bought something from us before. Like one of the examples is I had somebody who came by our booth on Friday and came by to say hi. They came back again. They were like, sorry, you guys are so busy. Like Angela say that we're really busy, so people didn't get a chance to talk to us. At smaller conventions like AEC and Pop Call, people can come and talk to us for half an hour, or even sit down with us and talk, because we love talking anime. We love talking about merch. And one thing that we at least tell people is where to go in Japan, what to eat, where to go to buy stuff, because we feel like having the going to Japan accessibility, if you can go to Japan, you can save money, go to Japan, do it. We tell everybody to do it, because that's we feel like Japan is reach for anybody. Just about saving money and planning it, because it's very cheap to eat in Japan. Like once you get the flight and you pay for the hotel, eating in Japan and being in Japan is so cheap.
And hotel, if you are willing to stay a tiny bit off the beaten path and don't mind a tradition, more of a Eastern style hotel as opposed to an American style hotel, you can get away with it being a little bit cheaper.
Yeah. Our hotel was like $80 a night. We got a business hotel in Akihama, not Akihama, Aki Itome. It's the same stop for Persona 5 where the school is.
We when I went in 2018, we stayed, it was Shinokubo, not far from Shinjuku.
Yep.
And we effectively stayed in Koreatown.
Yeah, it's really nice there.
And it was like we were there for 2 weeks, and flight and two round trip flights plus 2 weeks in a hotel breaks down to reasonable, and then just the food you can get stupid cheap.
Yeah.
Especially now where the yen value compared to the American dollar has dropped substantially. And I think it was abroad in Japan. Chris Broad recently put a video out about like 12 places you could eat for less than 1,000 yen and have a decent meal.
I mean, the obvious answer to that is always 7-Eleven.
That wasn't on any. That wasn't any of the places he went to.
None of the I don't think any of the convenience stores made his list.
No,
but he does talk a lot about Family Mart chicken.
I mean,
Family chicken's so good.
We discussed it. Like, if we really wanted to go hard on like spending and like cut into food budget, I personally wouldn't mind going on a 7-Eleven, but just 7-Eleven food only. Obviously, we're there more than just the shop. We like to have it be a pleasant experience for us, so we will step out of that. We will go to Coco's and other places, but if you were there just to go on the cheap, yeah, it's absolutely doable, and it'd be somewhat enjoyable.
Yeah, you can get I think when I went in 2018, my first time, I think I found the flight round trip from Boston about $800. The flight for Japan round trip was $600. $200 was to fly from the East Coast to the West Coast. So you could flight, let's say $600 to $800 easily. You can do it. I mean, now I think it's a little harder. Everything is over $1,000 now because of post-pandemic pricing. But hotel, you can find from anywhere from I was gonna say $500 to $1,000 depending on how long you're going. And if you really want to go cheap, you can do capsule hotels for a night or two. You can do overnight buses, like if you're going to Tokyo to Osaka
or Kyoto.
Yep, and Kyoto, you can do overnight buses, and that saves a night that you don't have to stay at a hotel. There's so many things you can do to save money. And I think when we were going to 7-Eleven to buy stuff, and like I said before, me and Josh are not tiny boys, and we like to eat. And you can easily spend $8 to $10 and buy a bag full of stuff, drinks, food, and you come back to the hotel, you're like, holy crap.
So I think I was going because I would go in the morning. I'd pick up.
I refuse
to get us both Boss coffees, get some sandwiches.
The strawberry sandwich is so good.
I didn't do the star.
I was all about the pork katsu. Pork katsu and onigiris. We were doing that.
And I think sometimes we get an onigiri to go on top of it. And I don't think it ever cleared $10.
Going back to the chat, question from the chat: who got you guys into anime?
I don't think it's specifically a who.
Or how did you discover anime?
For me, at least, I discovered anime when I was a kid. I was watching Sailor Moon when I was a kid, and just watching stuff on Toonami, like Dragon Ball Z. And just TV shows that had anime related shows, my earliest memories is Ronin Warriors and Sailor Moon.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think a lot of people our age pretty much started on that proto Toonami. I don't even remember what it was called. It wasn't Toonami, but it was proto Toonami.
And I'm probably the exception to that.
I started with Adult Swim.
Yeah, I remember we were watching Adult Swim too. A lot of that stuff, and then we were able to get Anime Network. And this is before streaming. We'd have to go to I remember to buy anime stuff, we had to go to Suncoast or Sam Goody or even Barnes and Noble to find
Strawberries.
Stuff.
Or FYE.
Yeah. FYE, yep.
Yeah.
Someone is pointing out this year marks the 26th anniversary of Toonami.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
John is very knowledgeable about a lot of the anniversaries and stuff. It amazes me the intelligence of our audience.
And I was gonna say too, as far as other old stuff, I remember I don't think even at the time I think we would have been both.
Yeah, it's Midnight Run. You're right.
Understand?
Then later, Midnight Run. I remember that.
Is I remember being really young and they had really old anime. I remember Speed Racer being on Cartoon Network for a while. And obviously at the time, I don't think either of us would have really known the difference. It was just a cartoon.
Yeah. That was one of my early ones, was Speed Racer, not knowing what anime was, but I used to love watching that because the art style was so different. I just thought it was a really cool looking, different style cartoon from Tom and Jerry and Nickelodeon cartoons like Danger Mouse and stuff that I watched growing up, going back into the 80s.
Yep.
And now it's crazy how there's so much out there, so many shows. what are we seeing? Just about every season, there's at least 40 anime that drops of various types.
Yeah, I'm
Something
actually
ridiculous.
watching Glass Reflections right now, and he watched every single new anime this season. There's 31 new animes this season. I'm watching his YouTube video right now to figure out what anime I want to start watching or potentially jump on.
See, I've out of new anime, I think I'm actively watching 4, 5 if you count one season 2,
Hmm.
and then my should be watching but haven't had the time to do so list is even longer.
Yeah, I tend to take breaks. So like I'll skip seasons and then I'll watch normal TV shows or well American shows or shows from elsewhere. Um,
Yeah, we do that too.
I usually
I was,
binge just how I watch my anime because I just don't
yeah,
have time between playing games. Like, I feel like right now for like anime video games, we're definitely in a renaissance of things to watch because you get the choice of going to Crunchyroll, you can go to Netflix, you
yeah,
can watch anime on YouTube, like which is wild. High Dive,
Yeah.
and I have such an old collection of anime DVDs and Blu-ray still. Like sometimes if there's something really good I want to watch, I'll watch it on Blu-ray, like a good anime movie. But it's just video games. Like I said, like Mega Man Battle Network just came out, Advance Wars reboot,
mhm,
and then the new Zelda games coming out. So there's like 3 games that I'm trying to play and then watch anime. It's so hard being an
And
adult
then
is you got to choose what you want to do.
and then
yeah,
new Final Fantasies coming out later
Oh
this
yeah,
year.
the new
yeah.
expansion.
And 16.
Yep.
What was it? And one thing too, I want to say too, just the accessibility really of anime too. I remember being in high school in our anime club, and I think that back in the day, that only survived by that one person who was in the club. It doesn't what their role in it varied. It's probably from person to person, whoever you'd ask, but it's the person who had the book of discs.
That's me.
That was
That's me. Like when I was in college, I ran DC server for anime, and with my friends, they used to call it because I think everybody remember like Anime-Zuki, Baka BT. Like we joked around that my DC Plus servers was like Baka BT because I still had a lot of anime. Like I used to, because you got to remember that the community before streaming times was all fan subs. Fan subs is what drove everything. You can still do
Yeah.
fan subs and everything now, but it's not the same where you can simulcast everything now.
Yeah,
And
I was gonna
I'm
say,
happy to give money to all these companies, and that's the same thing with merchandise. Is having everything so accessible for us now that we can eat anything we want. Like go to Netflix and watch
Yeah.
something, and go to Crunchyroll and watch whatever we want. It feels really good because it makes everything cheaper. And that's the same thing. Like back to going full circle with our business is making our merchandise cheaper and more accessible to everybody who can buy it. Because if the watching is so cheap and easy, you would want the merchandise to be cheap enough to you can enjoy it because it's part of the same process. Because like I have a JoJo stamp right here from part 4,
Mhm.
and I can have this because I enjoyed watching it from streaming services JoJo. If I didn't watch it, I couldn't enjoy the new merch. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I think a lot of us fall into that. Shows like Call of the Night with Nazuna, and I know there's Bocchi the Rock figures that are coming out. Um, a lot of good shows out there that you are starting to be able to find merchandise for. Then there are shows out there that were really good, but like you said, there are some shows that never get figures. Show by Rock, the only anime figure I've ever seen from the original Show by Rock is Crow. Not one of my personal favorites. I would have rather somebody from the main band of Plasmagica, or even any of the girls from Mashumai Resh, which was season 3 of Show by Rock.
Yep.
But but I haven't seen, even looking online, I haven't seen figures from it. And the show is really good. I mean, it got 4 seasons, and all 4 were dubbed. 3 of them, the first 3, even had the songs dubbed in English. So I was kind of surprised that there wasn't more of a, you know, appreciation and a following for the characters, because the characters were adorable as well. And then you have other music-based shows like Love Live that have a million versions of every character with every outfit imaginable from every series.
Yep.
I mean, I can't say I don't have Love Live figures, but at the same time, there are other shows that I enjoyed that I would love to find figures for, because that's my weakness. I am a collector of figures. I probably easily have over 50, maybe, at least.
Yeah,
Now,
I have a ton of figures right here. So, like, I tend to be like everybody else buying IKEA Daywolves, and I have I can see my figures right now. I have a Chopper figure, a Bleach figure, him and Bankai. I got a Going Mary ship, and I would say I probably have I would say 30, 40 figures. One of my favorite recent figures I got was a Full Metal Alchemist figure.
yeah. It's hard to see, but in the background up here, that's just one small shelf of figures. There's more on a shelf above the TV. I've got 7 figures up there. On the shelf beside me, I've got 9, 2 right here, and then in the kitchen, I have a nice glass shelf that's full, and it's figures from everything from shows like Strike Witches, Senran Kagura,
All good.
and oh god, it was. I can picture the show. They had two different seasons of it. Greg Ayres was the main character. Oh, Negima, that's it. I have an Asuna from Negima figure, which it might be bootleg. I'm not sure, because I found that years ago in the days of buying cheap figures off of eBay.
Yep.
Before knowing what bootlegs were. I know I have some bootleg figures that aren't out, because once you're made aware of bootlegs, you kind of know what to look for.
Yeah.
It gets really hard to look for bootlegs, because sometimes it's very little things. Like, another thing that we look at, because we buy a lot of merch, is, perfect example, if we don't see a copyright logo for the anime, that is most of the time a bootleg or a custom made figure or keychain. Because like when we're looking at Chainsaw Man stuff, there's a lot of personalized keychains that people made for the anime, because the anime was so popular that people were reading the manga, so they had manga stuff in a keychain form that wasn't applying to the anime yet. So it's like they're skipping ahead. I'm like, no, they wouldn't release all this anime merch right away. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and for us, to answer your question, I had to look it up. I have Asuka and Yagyu from Senran Kagura. And I remember because we had a show early on where we actually had Felicia Angel and Brent April as the 2 guests on that show. And that night I went on eBay and found a 2-for-1 price for the 2 characters. So I was like, I need to buy this. And it was officially licensed, figures from the show. So they weren't knockoffs or anything like that. It was just a really good deal. I think somebody was just selling from their personal collection.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
But like I said, I love the figures, and one of the things I've gotten into collecting, which I know are pricier than the prize figures, but I do love the Nendroids. Do you deal a lot with those, or not so much?
Not so much. I think when we get our hands on them, we will.
Yeah. Usually if we do find them, it's out of the box for us.
Yeah. It's usually the older ones, like you said before, the Japanese aren't as interested anymore, and they just put up for sale. They're still usually in great condition. Sometimes in the box, sometimes not. But yeah, no, that is definitely those definitely are. If you're looking for I'd say, would you say that's like a mid-range price? I'd say it's about mid-range.
For
A
what?
good Smile product.
Yeah, they're pretty decent price, but the thing is, like a lot of the Good Smile stuff and Networds, they don't make so much of it, so the prices tend to
Yeah.
blow up. I feel like I've seen them go for $120 for something that just came out,
Yeah.
and like I said, we try to give stuff with wiggle room or whatever we can get a good price on. So like we try to buy a lot of secondhand stuff because most of the time now most people are able to go to any different anime site, even in America. Like you can buy stuff from Right Stuff, you can buy stuff from Crunchyroll. So a lot of that
Yeah.
new stuff that's there, you can buy in America. Even go to GameStop or Hot Topic, you can buy Necrorids from them. So we try not to do stuff that, at least for our business, we try not to buy the new stuff that anybody else can get. We try to get the stuff that's harder, like the prize figures, stuff at the
Yeah.
arcades, the gachapon, because you can't get that in America. And we
Yeah.
try to bring something to the table that way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I'm personally not as big as figures, probably as Anthony or you. I'm more into the little weird things. Like I have this little clock right here, which JoJo fans probably will know. Um, but yeah, that Moody Blues is. Oh yeah, I just enjoy the little things, which
Oh yeah,
probably it's.
This was one of the hidden gems I found at Anime last year. They actually had gachapon stuff for Kuma Bear, which I was amazed at and had to buy like 4 different ones because I love that show. In fact, I was rewatching episode 1 of season 2 over the weekend in English with my oldest daughter. Because of course we get the kids into anime too. Start them young.
That's the way to do it, honestly.
Yeah.
And then there's Ange who would rather have the books than any of the other collectibles.
I'm a book nerd, and I have limited space at this point. And from the chat, John Knight's asking you guys, have you seen Tokyo Ghoul?
I have not, but I know
I
it's
have not either. I have friends that are into it, so I've heard things.
Same.
But it hasn't been something I've watched yet.
I have a big backlog of anime I want to watch. I try to be relevant with new stuff that comes out on purpose because I want to know what people like. And like that's one thing that we try to do as a business is we try to be in touch with the new stuff and old stuff. And we have our personal backlogs with TV, video games, and everything. I have like behind me, I have a stack of 100 sealed games that I still have between old stuff, new stuff that I buy, and I always try to buy new stuff. Like Nintendo stuff never goes on sale, so I tend to buy it when it comes out and I stack it. Like right now, I'm playing Mega Man right now, and I have Advance Wars to play, Legend of Zelda to play, and other games I need to play, anime-related games.
What's the craziest thing that you've been able to find that people have asked you for, or it was just one of those instances where you found like something just you never thought you would see, and you had to get it because you knew somebody would be interested in it? Especially knowing Japan has interesting stuff.
we usually get the interesting stuff not in person in Japan per se. We've seen some like cool keychains and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And random figure stuff. But like some of the cool stuff we've seen, like noodle figures. Like people don't realize that there's a lot of noodle figures for that people love in Japan that people don't realize that it's reasonably priced, and you cook your noodles, put the figure on top of it, let it seal it. I would say all the JoJo stuff we've gotten, that's a nice noodle figure right there. Yeah. The JoJo stuff like the Kira nail clipper. I had a Lawson bag. What is it called? It's like what Lawson?
Lasso. I forget. It's like missing one letter from Lawson.
Yeah, it's like Osen. It's like it's trying to be like Lawson's in Japan, but it was a merch for Part 4, and it's basically like a shopping bag for the Kobeni store.
Yeah, it's Osen.
Olsen,
They
yeah.
just got rid of the L.
Yeah.
That's cool, and I'm someone who has never left the country, so it's neat to hear about. Like, I love Japanese culture. The more I watch the YouTubers from Japan and see, what goes on there. And we were talking before we went on the air, Anthony, about how you can find everything in vending machines.
Oh, pretty much, yeah. Josh went for the first time in November, and he was able to pretty much get anything he wanted. Like we were outside at one of the shrines, and it was raining, and the vending machine had like a hot latte, and I was cold because I didn't bring my jacket with me because I didn't think it was going to rain. And I had the hot latte in my hand to keep myself warm and drink it. And I'm like, you see, like those are the kind of things you get in Japan of like, hey, I want something hot, I want something fresh, or I don't want soda, I want flavored water. You can get that. Like in America, you can't go anywhere like that.
Did you guys try hot lemonade?
No,
I did not. No, they didn't even have that.
Uh,
It was the CC lemon.
hot lemonade is something that AJ, my husband's first trip to Japan was in 2013, and he does not drink coffee at all. And in the vending machine, he found a hot lemonade, tried to recreate it here, couldn't do it. And then when we went in 2018, he managed to find it, but it took us a while to find because it was not one of those common ones. But it is really good.
One of the coolest things to find is like corn soup. That's a perfect example.
I was just about to say the corn
Yeah, I knew
soup.
you were going to say corn soup. It's like the weird stuff you find in vending machines. Like in a drink vending machine, like right now, the vending machine I have right here has a bunch of stuff that you would think, even if you go to a retail store, you couldn't find some of this stuff in a retail store. You could only find it from a vending machine, which is wild.
Yup.
And to give people an idea of just how popular vending machines are in Japan, there's a whole mall area, like a building that is nothing but vending machines. I think from the video I saw, there was over, I think it was somewhere between 50 and 75 vending machines in this one small back alley room. But you could get everything from housewares to food. If you wanted a pizza, you could get it there for like 300 or 400 yen for a cheese pizza. You could get sake. You could get anything that you could imagine.
Yeah, from what I hear, I probably wouldn't. I'd be a little wary on the sake and probably the pizza. But yeah, no,
the frozen food. From what I have seen, the frozen food, you can get frozen food in a vending machine, and most of it's better than the frozen dinners we get here.
Oh, definitely.
Granted, that's not a high bar, but
yeah, I haven't tried it yet, but I'd still be a little wary. Though I will say that I'm not really sure how they do it, but one thing I had to get used to, I know it's definitely not a big deal for Anthony, but you'll find some sandwiches that you'd expect to be like, in the fridge, just sitting out.
Everything's so fresh. I had explained to Josh that everything was super fresh. Everything, and the thing is, because everything's so fresh, things go bad faster because there's no preservatives. But like even like going to McDonald's in Japan was an experience because it's like it tastes different. Like,
yes, it does.
It's like wild. It's night and day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Krispy Kreme, or was it Krispy Kreme?
No, you're Mr. Donut.
I could have sworn.
It's probably Krispy Kreme because Krispy Kreme in Japan, like I think Josh was with me when I went to Krispy Kreme because I said I had to. Remember, I said I had to get Krispy Kreme.
I ended up getting a matcha donut, and
it was probably Mr. Donut from Matcha Donut then.
But the one AJ got was effectively something akin to chicken pot pie in a donut.
Oh wow!
It was like it was completely savory, and I could not wrap my head around that, and didn't try it. But
And question from Ross asking, is sake less drunken than beer? I think he's curious about, are you less likely to get drunk off sake than beer?
It's about the same, honestly. It's
I
about
think
proportions. Like sake is more of a hard liquor, so it takes a lot less sake compared to volume of beer to get drunk.
Yeah.
So it's all about
it also
proportions.
comes down to your taste profile as well.
Sake, I believe, is technically rice wine.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is rice wine.
And I know that I think in one of the train stations, they actually have like a sake area where you can try over 100 different kinds of sake.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably one option this person's probably not aware of. There's a third option, which is very infamous. Rose probably knows exactly what I'm about to say.
I know where you're going.
But there's also the strong zeros too.
Yep.
Which
oh my god, I love strong
is it supposed to
zeros.
be like like almost like seltzer, like hard seltzer, kind of?
It is, but
Like carbonated water.
I will say I did not know what I was getting.
Oh, it messes you up.
Now I am
It's just because it tastes it goes down smoother than
I am
it does.
I am a small person and I have blood sugar issues.
Oh yeah.
I had one of those, and let's just say I was done drinking for the night.
Yeah. They don't call it the Gaijin killer for nothing.
She was very happy.
Actually, I think the end result of that was just I got sleepy. But
I know Anthony also, as far as other drinking options, Anthony's a big fan of the highballs.
Huge fan of highballs, which is like Japanese whiskey and like Coke.
No, I wouldn't say it's Coke. It's like soda water.
Club soda. You can club. Soda, yeah. I like Coke instead, but you can do club soda or ginger ale.
Yeah, I think it was mostly ginger ale when he got it.
Now, knowing the nightlife in Japan can be quite interesting with the variety of bars they have. Were you able to go to any of the themed bars that a lot of Japan is known for, especially in like Tokyo area?
No, I think we were just boring and old, really.
Tired because we were trying to see everything that we want to see. This is Josh's first trip to Japan, so we were trying to see everything. Plus, we were with a friend who was having a rough year, so we were out with him, trying to show him a good time, and we were just trying to eat food, shop. That's pretty much what we were doing.
You guys actually make it out to Odaiba?
We did not.
No, I think we went to.
We went to, yeah. We were trying to.
No, because one of the things we did was in Odaiba is the life-size Gundam.
Yes.
And
we were trying to go to Gundam Base, but that's what we were going to do instead of going to Odaiba. We were going to go to Gundam Base in
Yokohama.
Yeah, Yokohama. But it didn't work out because we didn't want to pay for it, and also timing. It would take us too long to get there. That's the trip we went on last year was so short for us, so we were trying to jam pack everything. We went to like the Kirby Cafe, we went to the Pokemon Cafe, went to Pokemon Centers, Nintendo Store. We were trying to like do all the big things we could do in our control.
Yeah, no. The mall with the Gundam store also had a round one in it.
Yep, on the top floor.
Something like that. But for any Gundam fans out there, seeing the life-size Gundam was a surreal experience.
And seeing it transform is really cool too.
Yep, because when I went, it was Unicorn Gundam.
It's still Unicorn Gundam.
And I believe buried on my social media somewhere, there's a picture of me in front of it for reference. But all right, go away.
I know that like I say, I watch a lot of the Japanese YouTubers like Abroad in Japan, Giga, Xdog VA, Joey the Anime Man, and a lot of the popular ones just to get a better understanding of some of the culture out there. Because being a fan of anime and the Japanese culture, I want to learn more about it. That way, when I do have a chance to get out there, I have a better understanding and can be less of the American tourist and at least try to, you know, make an effort to understand the language and, respect the culture.
Hmm.
Because there are a lot of things that they do in Japan that I think would be amazing in the U.S. that we'll never see.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. We've had conversations. There's been a lot of times where I've had to work late, and it would be nice to have a vending machine I can just grab something off, or a 7-Eleven with actually good food.
Because that's something, yeah, we definitely talked about it multiple times. Like, wouldn't it be nice to go to like an American 7-Eleven and it has the same kind of food and drink options, like good food and like
Yeah.
choice of drinks, or going to like you get out of the train station, you hit a vending machine, boom, you can get whatever you want. Like the modern conveniences Japan has makes life so much better. And as it is in our year 2023, life's not easy. It's hard. Like all the work you do, how everything costs so much. It's like if you have simple conveniences that make you happy, that make life better for everybody. And I think that's what Japan does really well.
Hmm.
I agree. It would be great to have those vending machines in the U.S. where you could just, even walking down the street, you're like, man, I could go for a quick meal or something, and for $5 you could have a nice, hot meal of, quality ramen, not just like a cup noodle, but an actual like decent ramen meal or something.
I don't know how much I would say that would be the case. I'd say probably be closer to the cup ramen, a higher quality one. But there, at least as far as Japan goes, you'd be more likely to find an actual ramen place.
It's moments like this where I wish I enjoyed ramen.
Oh.
I tried ramen in Japan. I did not like it.
I can understand that.
So subsequently, coming back here, and everyone's like, "Oh, you got to go to this ramen place." It's like, no, I don't like ramen.
Is it just the broth? What is it? The noodle, the broth?
I think it's too. I think really it just boils down to it's too salty.
I can understand that.
Because I am sensitive to salty foods, and anything beyond a certain point, a pinch of too much, a hair too much salt, and the dish is ruined for me.
You can definitely try udon. That might be the.
Yeah, I was going to say
udon is delightful.
Udon or what's it called?
Soba.
Soba noodles, yeah.
Soba too. But I was going to say, what's it called? Where it's essentially like ramen, except you're dipping the noodles into the broth. Like it's like they're separate.
Oh,
it's separated.
I know what you're talking about, and I don't remember what it's called. I probably will have to try that.
Because I had that when we were in Japan, and it was really good.
Ross giving us some praise. And Sharka, thank you for the comment on the Nazuna figure. And HH disagreeing with some of the Japanese culinary.
It's actually really good.
Oh, Tsukimen.
That
being said, mayo in Japan is very different from mayo.
It's different American mayo, yeah. Japanese mayo is completely different.
And if it's Kewpie they're putting on pizza,
that's different. It hits different, trust me.
I'm gonna say it's.
We've had Domino's in Japan. I think we had it twice because that's how good it is. Yep. Every time I go to Japan, I have Domino's twice just because Japanese
I think we had the full menu too.
Yeah, we ordered the full menu. Yeah, we did. Different things.
I don't working for Domino's. Aki Dearest YouTuber has kind of become a YouTuber for Domino's Japan. She's unofficially she has done like 4 or 5 videos where she has ordered some of the weird combinations that Japan Domino's has put out there. And working for Domino's, I'm like, I don't know if I would want to eat there if I went, because obviously when you work for Domino's, you eat a lot of it. No, but I understand that it's a whole different culture, a whole different like everything. They have so many different options there. I saw the tsundere pizza that Domino's Japan had, and I was like, as interesting as that would be, I'm not going to attempt it.
I just one of the food places we did was the burger place that served President Trump when he went to Japan. Because our thought process, well, that's as good enough reason as anything to sample a food place, and you really can't go wrong with burgers.
Yep.
And just like here, just like Canada, Japan puts weird stuff on burgers too.
Oh, definitely it does.
And John in the chat is asking, do either of you speak Japanese?
Like a little bit, like just enough to like. I think it's just the real basics. You can if you're in Tokyo, you can get by with a lot. Just with knowing the basic greetings, knowing your when to sumimasen. Like it as long as you just know the little basics, and I think
honestly, I'm going to tell you, if you go to Tokyo, you don't need to speak Japanese. It's because most people are going to want to speak English to you, and that happens. I was going to say 90% of the times people want to speak English to you. Like, I know enough Japanese to get myself by. I can read some kanji. I can pretty much get myself anywhere I need to go in Japan just from watching anime and having experience. I really want to get better about learning Japanese, but time. It's always about time.
Yeah.
Working full-time jobs, doing this.
The extent of my Japanese is I can count to 10. And granted, I learned that as an 11-year-old in martial arts. And I retained that.
I think the person who's given the best advice as far as that goes is Sea Dog VA, who's basically said you just need to learn like the basic formula, like you're like an NPC in a video game. As long as you know like the basic little things to get you by, that really just helps, and you'll be using it a lot, and it eventually does just become an autopilot thing.
I was actually very surprised by the fact of how easily we could get around Tokyo.
Yeah.
Google Maps actually works. And it wasn't until we got off the beaten path trying to find something very specific for my brother-in-law that we ran into the signs no longer had English translations. And that's when we knew we'd wandered a little too far. But we also found the construction site for what was supposed to be the 2020 Olympics.
Oh damn.
And I know that a lot of times, especially in like Tokyo, as you were saying, a lot of them will speak to you in English. They want to practice their English.
They don't want to speak Japanese to you. I do have a story from 2018, and this is like, I would say, Japan in a nutshell. I was at Super Potato. Super Potato is a very famous place that people go to buy video game stuff in Akihabara. I went upstairs to the arcade. Super Potato has an arcade on the top floor that people don't know about so much, but it's there. I sat down because I wanted to get a Coca-Cola, and they had snacks, so they had like vending machines there and ice cream. So I sat down, and there's this Japanese guy who's probably in his late 50s smoking a cigarette. So Japan is one of those things that you can smoke inside in most places. I think now when I'm in Japan, they've been getting a lot better about inside smoking. But in 2018, people were still smoking inside.
Yep.
And I think it's a COVID thing too. That's why they stopped smoking inside. But the guy was there, and he's like, and I'm a big guy, like I said before, and I'm also dark skinned. So I stick out like a sore thumb anywhere I go. So they assume I'm American. The guy's sitting down smoking a cigarette, and he's like, oh, are you American? With an accent? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, And I'm like, oh, it's my first time in Japan. I literally been in Japan for like 36 hours. So, and he's like talking to me, he's asking me, how do you like Japan? And, you know, he didn't speak the best English. And obviously, I don't speak any Japanese, but the best to have our conversation between both of us of different things we like. And he's like, oh, what do you like about coming back to Japan? What kind of games you like? And he's like, what's your favorite console? And I said the Nintendo 64. And he's just like, oh, Mario, Nintendo. And I'm like, yeah. And we were talking about how we both like Mario 64. And like somebody who's like 20, 30 years my senior was playing an N64 when he was like in his late 20s, 30s, playing Nintendo 64 and enjoying it. It was like such a weird convergence of me enjoying stuff when I was a kid in elementary school, and this guy who was an adult already playing the same system, and now he's in an arcade in Japan enjoying the same thing. It's like we like, and I feel like in America we have a generational gap with anime and video games so much, but in Japan they've been doing that since the 80s and 90s. It's nothing new to them, like arcades and everything like that, and otaku culture is such a big thing. You know what I mean? And like another thing is like when I go to Japan, I think you get an understanding of being an American. You say you're an otaku. It's not. I feel like in America it could be seems bad you're otaku sometimes. I feel like it's condescending sometimes. But in Japan, if you say you're an otaku, they completely understand. Like me buying a lot of stuff, or I went to a couple of like secondhand stores in Japan called Hard Offs, and I got into a taxi because obviously some places in Japan there's no train and limited bus service, so you had to walk everywhere. And I didn't want to walk 5 miles with my bags, and I got a taxi to take me, and I was just like explaining to him the guy didn't speak any English, and I just told him to keep the meter running, and I told him I was an otaku, and I was telling him what the stuff I was buying and liking, and this guy is like 85 years old driving a taxi, and he was like so enlightened and joy about the stuff that I like because I could say the names of the animes I like or the video games I like, and he had complete understanding of why I was going to all these secondhand stores to buy stuff. I feel like you can't get that anywhere in the world. I feel like you go to America and be like, I like video games or I like anime. Somebody who's your senior or somebody who doesn't know the anime or video games doesn't know what you're talking about. I feel like you can go anywhere and describe what you like, and it's not a culture shock to them.
I actually had a funny moment like that. Working on a college campus, I've seen it all.
Yep.
And there was, at one point, it was a college freshman, so 18, 19 years old, and they had on an anime shirt. I don't remember which show, but I knew that the new season had just been announced, and I made a point of letting them know that. And their response was, "Oh shit, an adult who likes anime." And it just kind of made me laugh after the fact because it is that exact thing. It's that generation gap.
It is. It's a big difference.
I feel like we're just a couple generations behind on it. Like, essentially, I wouldn't say we're like that guy you talk to.
We'll be there at some point.
We're like in
we'll be there
in
at some
his
point.
younger years.
Yeah, we'll be there in our 50s and 60s. We'll be that person being like, "Oh, we love this anime that we were watching," and they're like, "Oh, I just watched Cowboy Bebop for the first time," or Ava for the first time, and we're like,
"Yeah."
I run into that now.
Even for like JoJo, is if it continues on, it's going to be at least another 10 years until it's caught up and to the end point.
Question from the chat. Ross wants to know if we have any rules or warnings to give advice on people visiting Japan.
I would say, I mean, a lot of the rules are pretty simple. You know, don't talk on the train. Keep your volume down. I think a lot of people might be surprised just like how loud they are until you're just there. So you might have to, might take a little bit for you to get to lower your volume. But that's a thing.
Over there, they
And
take one thing I learned is they
be
take
polite.
jaywalking very seriously, as opposed to here, especially in
Yep.
Boston.
Yeah.
You see a break in traffic, you just go.
You gotta wait
Yeah.
for the light to change. Yeah, the best thing to say is be considerate about everything you do. Things that people in Japan are very, they think about others before themselves. So whenever you do something, be considerate. Like think about like you're going to somebody's house you've never been to. Be extremely considerate of what you're doing and be mindful. It's mindfulness does a lot. Is like like I said, don't be loud on the train. Follow customs that are in Japan. One good thing about Japan is like no tipping. Um, you don't eat when you walk. Um, Talking in the train's very quiet. It's supposed to be like a quiet place. The only thing you'll hear in the train is the train rolling when you're in the train.
Mm-hmm. I'd say one thing too, since there are people, just because of the way the U.S. is, um, not a lot of people have like experience, like a lot of experience with like public transit. But I would say like if you if you have a bag, put your bag on your lap, put it
Or in front
between
of
your
you.
legs if you're standing. Um, just mind your space. Is really a good thing.
Yeah, don't if you learn how to use Google Maps. Google Maps is really useful in Japan. And I would say another big thing about Japan is, um, you know, have a budget and figure out how much time you want to be there because Japan can be very tiring. Like
Mhm.
me and Josh were in Japan last year for 12 days. We did not stop for those 12 days. We were out every day. If we
Yeah.
went for like a full 2 weeks, I think we would have took a day or two to break. But we were such there for a limited amount of time. Like Josh was there later than I was. I got there like 2 days earlier than he did, so I had time to adjust to the time zone and roam around. But like I was sore and tired. He was sore and
Yeah.
tired. It's just there's a
Well,
lot of walking, so be prepared for a
Ano-
lot of walking.
Another
yeah.
thing about public transit, unlike here, the trains are on time to the point where if it is off by a minute, they will issue a public apology for it.
And they'll give you
Mhm.
like a hall pass to give your boss to say they were late.
Yeah.
Um,
And I have heard stories of even if they've arrived 15, 30 seconds early, they will apologize.
because they don't want
Mhm.
to be early, they want to be punctual on time. Another thing I can recommend is if you go to Japan, um, don't go in the morning. Don't go during rush hour to get on the train because it's bad. And also another thing is nothing in Japan opens until 10, 11 o'clock usually. Like even if you like think about America, like you go to the grocery store or like a pharmacy, they're open at 8 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? You think of like stores, they open at 8, or
Yeah.
like malls open at 10, but like some stores will open at 8 o'clock. Like you think, hey, this pharmacy needs to be open at 8. No, they open at 10 o'clock. The only thing that's 24 hours is usually 24-hour food places, which they're far and few between,
Yeah.
and convenience stores. That's the only thing open in the morning.
Yeah.
There was and some cafes and patisseries
Yeah, they open
Um,
at in the morning. Yeah, like local places.
because I found a really amazing French bakery or French style bakery that was amazing. That
one
was
thing
open
I'll
in the morning.
one thing I'll throw out too. Obviously, you mentioned all the walking. Not so much a rule, but I would say advice. I would say make sure to get really comfy shoes. Um,
Yep, I agree with
Make
that.
sure maybe get an insole to add on to it, making sure your feet are nice and comfortable. And if you're not used to walking a lot, or I mean, even just for in case something happens if you trip, which Japan, it's very easy to trip. Lots of tripping hazards. But I would pick up some just basic pain medication, just because um, the medications is quite a bit weaker. So, like,
And harder
if
to
you do have
find
a
too.
tumble,
And hard to
then
find.
yeah, it's usually very low dose. I know I picked up something up from Target, some extra strength stuff, and I think that saved us from and kept us going just day to day to day to day.
On that note, one of the things, if you um, energy drinks, the amount of caffeine in them is about half the amount you'd get in one here.
Yep.
Oh, that explains how I was able to drink so much Monster there, I guess.
Because that is how AJ's first trip, he was wondering why he was constantly getting headaches, and was in fact caffeine withdrawal because he wasn't consuming the amounts he normally does.
Yep.
And subsequently, our last trip, it was we'd go to specific convenience stores to find the specific ones that had more caffeine.
Did you try any of that energy jelly?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
It's not bad. I liked it.
Yeah. Especially when
I've
it's
heard it's
refrigerated.
frozen, but I didn't have it frozen. It was you who was telling me that, right?
No, I said it's refrigerated is good because sometimes it comes not refrigerated.
Oh, okay. Someone mentioned to freeze it.
I'm gonna have to try that next time.
And I've never had it. I was at a convention that did have some of the energy jelly, but I didn't try any of it. I think it was Anime-Zing, and because I had a table for AZR, I didn't try much of the snacks across the room.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say tastes kind. I mean, it's like less sweet Jello, but obviously it has stuff in it to give you a little bit of a boost.
Yeah.
But it doesn't taste like, I don't know, like if you had like Monster flavored Jello. Doesn't taste like that. It's just like, oh, this is blue. I think I got like the blue jelly. It tastes like blue Jello. I mean,
Yeah.
One of the things I will say about the vending machines with the coffee, I could not get black coffee. I struggled to find sweetened black coffee.
You won't find it. It'll just be black.
Or it'll have milk and sugar.
Yep. Exactly. Like the coffee right here. I think that's Poca Black, not Boss Black. Boss Black's right here, but it's just literally black coffee. That's all it is.
Yes. And as I've gotten so used to not having milk or cream in my coffee, if I have to choose, I'll get the black. But why is even overseas sweetened black coffee is so rare?
Yep.
But I do want to thank you guys for coming on and chatting with us tonight. It's
oh wow,
been a lot of fun. I can't believe that
and we have
got
a cat.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
Technically, we have 2 if I move the figure.
Well, yes.
You have Ainz's butt.
Yes, but your cat is.
This is one of those
you
times that the
jumped in
figure
the lap.
placement actually worked out pretty good. So you don't have to stare at the cat's ass all night.
It's okay.
And I got distracted. This happens a lot. I suffer from shiny object syndrome really bad. It was worse when I had a window beside the computer when I first started the show, because I could look out the window and be like, "Oh, a squirrel just went by." It was horrible. Now I have a wall, so I can't get too distracted. But if we get thrown off topic, I'm done for a little bit.
No.
But like I said, I want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. It's been a lot of fun talking with you. I wish I had been able to come by your table and spend a little bit more time checking everything out, because it sounds like you had probably stuff that I would have been interested in.
Yeah, maybe. It's hard to say. You have to stop by next time.
Definitely.
Hopefully, we'll be at AB again. But like Anthony said, next con we'll be at is Pop Cult in August.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you're going to be able to make it, let us know what you're looking for.
Unfortunately, Pop Cult is out of the question because I'm moving to Pennsylvania at the end of July.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So there are conventions that we were looking at the second half of the year that, depending on job situation, might have to go by the wayside. As you know, Josh, when you start a new job, you have to get adjusted to a new schedule.
Yeah.
I do have an interview with a railroad on Wednesday, so we will see what happens. If I get that job, then there'll be a lot of things I've got to figure out for the future.
Yep. And if I remember correctly, Pop Cult is literally either while I'm still out of the country or like immediately after I get back.
And speaking of
Oh.
Pop Cult, they will be joining us as guests on June 11th. So we are going to be welcoming the Pop Cult staffers on to talk more about Pop Cult Anime Convention. We'll get to learn a little bit more about that. Unfortunately, that's one of the New England cons that I have not been able to attend, because every time I had work issues, working as a mechanic at the job that I was working at, Saturdays were mandatory, so trying to get a Saturday off was difficult, and that was usually reserved for bigger cons like Anime Boston, Kineticon. One year I was able to get KatsuCon, but that was about it for Saturdays.
I understand that.
Yup.
So, but thankfully, my boss for that job was awesome and worked with us as much as he could without causing issues with everybody else.
But it is what it is.
Oh yeah.
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 On the guest note, we also wanted to say June 25th, we'll be welcoming Hollywood actress Denise Gossett will be joining us. She is also the founder of the Shriek Fest Horror Film Festival that goes on. I think she's got one in California and one that goes on in Florida. So it'll be fun to talk with her. Again, it's a convention weekend, so I'll probably be half dead because that's the same weekend as Rail City. How I managed to do that back to back, Ange, I don't know.
Oh. If we're doing that, the likelihood of me being on air is going to be probably
Probably
zero.
Unless you leave early.
Unless I leave early, and even then, probably less than 50%.
Yeah. But that's... and the reason I say that is last weekend we had Giovanni Cruz on the show. I also spent the entire weekend tabling alone at Vermont Sci-Fi and Fantasy Expo, doing live streams and stuff. So it was finish the con, rush home, and get ready for the show at 8 o'clock. So the last two times I've had Hollywood actors as guests on the show, I had a con that weekend. I'm getting good at this. I don't know how. At least both of them were Vermont cons, and so it was less than an hour and a half drive for both of them. So
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Speaking of conventions and distance and whatnot, have you guys looked into Anime New York City? Or is even that outside the realm of what's reasonable to get to? Because I know that's one of the larger ones.
I could say we've talked about, as far as specific cons, we haven't talked about any outside of New England, like any specific ones. We've pretty much talked about like how far we'd be willing to go, but I'd say New York is definitely in that.
It'd be like New Jersey, Pennsylvania would be as far as we would go. Because like I said, we have full-time jobs, and it would be taking a lot to get all the merch there. Because one of the good things that you do, we try to keep costs down. We would put everything in my car and go down. So whatever can fit in the car, that'll be it. We actually added more space in the car this year by adding a roof box, so we can bring more merchandise to the convention. That's what we've been trying to do, figure out ways to be more intuitive to bring more merchandise. But yeah, it's really about timing, and we try to prioritize smaller cons too. because not everybody can go to a bigger con, and we tend to have more fun in a smaller con. Like Anime Boston's fun. Like Anime Boston for us is like really home con for us because we've been going to Anime Boston for so long. So
Yeah.
we love vending it, but it's very tiring. But like some of the best cons that we had fun with was last year was definitely AAC and Pop Cult. Pop Cult was our first time last year, and we had a ton of fun at Pop Cult. Even though it was working being a vendor is a lot of work because you're there, but there was times where Josh was able to get out of the booth. I was able to get out of the booth. We could walk around. Like we both had time to walk around at Pop Cult or AEC versus Anime Boston. Like we were stuck to the booth.
And if you were we're looking at venturing out to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, one con that we started working with last year, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make their New Jersey show, which is next weekend down in Atlantic City, but the convention is called PucciCon. I would say it's a small to mid-size convention.
Yep.
Probably AAC size. Back when it was in Manchester, not so much where it's at now, back when it was a little bit bigger than it is at its current location. But it was it's a good convention. The staff impressed me to the point that I went from sponsoring just their Pennsylvania con to, okay, we're going to their New Jersey con, and then wanted to work with them again this year. And we're working with them. If I had the time and the money, I would be going to Atlantic City next weekend, but with the move coming up, I had to limit what I was able to actually do. But barring job moving to Pennsylvania, if I'm able to, I want to make their Pennsylvania show at the Camelback Resort. It's not far from where ColossalCon East is, if you've ever heard of or been to that one.
I go to ColossalCon every year, so our problem is we like doing conventions for ourselves too. So, like for example, like when we go to Anime Boston, we really can't do much Anime Boston stuff. Like we can hang out at night and hang out with friends, but most of the time we're toasted and tired. Like we were out Saturday night late to hang out. We got some pizza and hung out in the lobby. But the same nightlife experience at Anime Boston is not the same what it used to be. But it's good to see friends. You know what I mean? Like that's the only reason we went to see friends. But like I still go to MagFest. I go to ColossalCon East and ColossalCon Prime, just because I love going to those conventions, like the water park and everything like that. But we decided to make a rule of thumb of if we were going to a convention for fun, we can't vend because there's no way to have fun. You have to choose either or. We were trying to, I think 2 years ago when we went to East together, we were trying to do like maybe the yard sale and bring some stuff, but we were just too tired from having fun that we decided not to do that. But it wasn't like we had to do it. You know what I mean? I think if we decide that we're going to do a convention to go for the first time, we'll do it. And like that's what we're saying about smaller conventions. We're able to have more fun and do more things because me and Josh come from a background of working conventions also. So we both have staff conventions. So we have that experience with smaller cons because I feel like smaller cons don't get the same kind of love that bigger cons get to. And like I said, not everybody can afford a bigger con. And our costs are cheaper at a smaller con. So we're able to go there, have fun, be part of the community, talk to more people, and, offer cheaper prices.
Oh yeah, and Angela and I have talked about that before. Like since starting this show, I look at conventions totally different than I ever did before. Especially like any convention I go to. Last year, I went to 13 conventions. We had tables at 5, press at 5, and randomly decided, let's try to go to a con just for fun, which then turned into work.
Yep.
Because I can't go to a con just for fun anymore without doing some sort of show promotions.
And on the flip side of that, for example, my very first convention ever was actually Gen Con Indie.
Oh, jeez. I've been to Gen Con. I haven't been to Gen Con in years, but that's a fun con.
That was my first ever convention, and then Anime Boston several years later. And so it's kind of the whole scope and size and whatnot, and they are very, very different beasts.
Of course, yeah.
And one thing that like personally I prefer the smaller to mid-sized cons because it's a more comfortable feel. You can spend more time with the guests. You don't feel as rushed if you want to get an autograph. You can look at the artists and the vendors longer and make connections there. You have more time to talk with the same people you see all weekend long, as opposed to Anime Boston. Unless you have a planned time and meeting place outside of the convention itself, there's a good chance you'll miss a lot of friends that you wanted to see there.
Yeah, a lot of friends came by our booth, or I had a friend who I saw on Saturday night, but he went by my booth, didn't realize I had a booth there, and I had to tell him, I'm like, oh, I'm there. He's like, oh, I walked by it. I didn't realize you were there. And, you know, when there's a crowd of people, you're not looking for a friend or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is like I feel like that's always a big problem. And like, the example, like I was saying about Pop Cult, going back to them, we had somebody who sat at our booth for, I was going to say, Josh, like an hour and a half. One of our customers, we were talking about anime. I'm like, they're like, I have nothing better to do, and I'll just sit down and talk about anime. I'm like, sure. We were talking about anime while we were selling stuff, and she just sat down with us and, you know, had a wonderful time. And like stuff like that. Those are the memories that I remember, is like talking about stuff we love. It's really cool.
Yep.
And we are almost out of time. I can't believe how fast these 2 hours flew by. That is absolutely nuts. Again, I want to thank you guys for joining us. Before we have to sign off, we want to give you a chance to promote yourselves. Anywhere people can find you, social media, how they can find your merchandise. We call it our shameless plugging section, and the floor is yours.
So we mentioned at the beginning, so you can go to our website. It's not much right now. It's pretty much just a bunch of links. But newedgegamers.com. And it'll have all the links to our socials. I think the only one that's not on there is I have not put a link to our TikTok, but we are on TikTok. We're technically everywhere, but you'll pretty much find more updates on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. As far as buying stuff, our eBay store. If you just look up New Edge Gamers, you should find us no problem. Same thing for Mercari. And we are hoping to have our website up to sell in the near future, but we'll see how that goes.
Definitely.
And obviously we'll have more new product coming around Pop Cult, depending on when it gets in. But yeah, stay tuned to Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok for more on that.
Definitely.
Awesome. Again, thank you guys so much for joining us. It has been a pleasure to get to meet you here on the show. Like I said, Ange had mentioned that you were at Anime Boston, but like you guys said, you were so busy, it's tough to stop by and say hi. We know a lot of the vendors that were there, including like Black Knight, Otaku Joe's, and a lot of times it's a quick wave as you're passing by the table or a quick shout out to the people you know, and it's so tough to connect at these larger conventions. But definitely hope I get to run into you at future conventions and really check out the merchandise, because it sounds like you've got some amazing things. Browsing the eBay store a little bit, you definitely have some really, really cool stuff. And everybody, if you like video games, figures, check out the stuff they have up. They have a lot of really quality stuff. Some of the older things as well that's hard to find, especially stuff that you may not even find in the US and didn't know was even out there because it's Japan exclusive.
Definitely.
On that note, until next weekend when we have a TBA for a guest, we may just talk random anime nonsense like we like to do here. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Maybe Darren will join us. Maybe he won't be dead. Who knows? You never know with him. He's snuggled in his bed surrounded by waifu body pillows. So
Truth.
I wish I was lying, but I've seen he's turned his camera on off air, and I've seen what he has on his bed. When you're surrounded by like Rias Gremory and Zenobia from DXD and some of the other characters that he has, it doesn't surprise me that he's tucked up and so, some of the waifus from anime,
Yep.
past and present. But until next week, we want to wish everybody a wonderful week out there. Stay safe, keep enjoying the anime, and until next week, this has been Anime-Zing Radio right here on Facebook, Twitch, and